Investigators say that the attacks happened right inside this home on Fairlamb Avenue. And while one person was murdered and two were severely beaten, neighbors say they didn't hear a sound. I reached out to Ringling Brothers, who declined an interview regarding the allegations on animal abuse. All residents leaving town should make sure their doors are locked and double check windows to make sure they're locked as well. That sand volleyball team got lucky today with this beautiful warm weather here in Columbia. It's around 70 degrees and it happens to be the first day of spring. Some bars are still saying no by putting this sign outside. Fruit trees like all of these right here are becoming more and more popular with the state farmers market. After 3 long days of snow and ice, people are finally able to get out of their house and enjoy this beautiful weather. It's unusual for a 2-legged Chihuahua and a fluffy chicken to become best friends. Those were the words of Sergeant John Mark Wassenaar at Fort Hood in Texas, reacting to yesterday's shooting. Welcome to Carolina News. I'm Margaret-Ann Carter. Broken limbs and fallen trees line the sides of I-26 and I-95, but you may not have noticed the hundreds of men working day and night to remove all debris from the roads. Interstate 26 and 95 are two of the most driven highways in South Carolina, with thousands of people driving up and down them every day.
We have almost 500 contract crews that are working in 19 counties across the state right now. And as of yesterday, we've removed about 278,000 cubic yards of debris.
The South Carolina DOT has had workers picking up debris on the highway for 2 weeks now. Worker Randy Hughes says he's been out there every day with chainsaw in hand, cutting down anything that could possibly cause problems for drivers.
We're just cutting back some of the brush till we get the machines in to clean everything up and pick it up, just to make the emergency lane clear so if anybody needs to get off the road.
Cook is the state maintenance engineer for the South Carolina DOT. He says he works with all counties to plan the best ways to keep traffic flowing.
So we actually met this morning and we're revising our traffic control plan. We're going to try to do most of the work just with a shoulder closure only.
While the South Carolina Department of Transportation acknowledges that there will be traffic on the roads during this time, they're trying to accommodate all drivers and workers by working at times where there are less cars on the road.
Certainly we would like to ask the public to try to be patient. I know it's an inconvenience, but we certainly want to make sure we keep everything very safe out there.
And while he can't promise a date, he says crews are working very hard to get the roads cleaned up as soon as possible. Margaret-Ann Carter, Carolina News. It comes as no surprise to the people who live in Lexington County to hear of, yet again, another meth lab bust. Just this year, sheriff's deputies have made over 15 arrests for the operation of methamphetamine labs in Lexington County alone. Major John Allard with the Lexington County Sheriff's Department says they searched the home of Jamie Greenlee after receiving a tip about a meth lab being operated off Pillion Road.
Fortunately, it's not unusual for us to find meth labs. It's not unusual for us to find them in a rural area, and it's not unusual for us to find ones in the Pillion area.
He says meth labs are operated in rural areas because homes are separated by heavy woods.
It has a very strong chemical odor. When people are manufacturing methamphetamine, it has a very distinct, strong chemical odor. So that certainly is an indicator that you might have a meth lab in an area.
When I typed in Jamie Greenlee's address, GPS led us to this dirt road, where there's a lot of land, but not so many people. It took a while to find a Pillion resident who knew anything about the meth lab bust, but I finally found someone who was willing to talk.
Somebody was telling me that in the last few days, I didn't know it was Friday, but there had been a meth bust on Pillion Road, on the right-hand side. I just happen to live on the left-hand side of the road. A lot of that goes on down there.
Mike Ragsdale has lived in Pillion for 4 years and says this definitely isn't the first time he's heard of something like this happening.
Yeah, I've also heard that they found bunkers where they're making meth back in the woods on this side, on the right-hand side.
Law enforcement has raided 4 labs in the last 6 weeks, 2 in one day on February 24th. Margaret-Ann Carter, Carolina News. The Richland County Sheriff's Department released new information regarding the deadly shooting that took place in East Columbia early Saturday morning. Latino's Bar and Grill is where a supposed prostitute approached a man soliciting sex.
What we believe is that the incident location is where this young lady who presented herself as Mariah, not sure if that's her real name or not, was soliciting this individual, victim. The victim leaves out, so does this suspect, female, along with 3 other male suspects as well.
The woman and 3 other suspects followed the victims to this vacant house on Fairlamb Avenue, where police say they beat 2 men and shot and killed another in an attempted robbery. Sergeant Curtis Wilson with the Richland County Sheriff's Department describes the woman as a tall, light-skinned female, 5'7" to 5'11", 150 pounds, 18 to 22 years old, with a tattoo on her upper chest.
But again, what we'd like to know is if anyone knows anything about this incident, if they heard about it, if they were there and saw anything.
Investigators say that the attacks happened right inside this home on Fairlamb Avenue. And while 1 person was murdered and 2 were severely beaten, neighbors say they didn't hear a sound.
Absolutely nothing. That's what boggles me.
Regina Thomas lives directly next door to where the murder took place and says her neighborhood is usually quiet and uneventful.
I'm not scared, but I'm concerned that nobody heard or nobody was aware with the commotion, 6 people out there fighting and shooting, and none of the neighbors seemed to have heard anything.
Other neighbors did not want to be on camera, but say they're on guard and hope an arrest is made soon so their neighborhood can return to normal. Margaret-Ann Carter, Carolina News.